Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark. It is Monday, October 21st. Vancouver Canucks have won back-to-back games on the road. And suddenly this team is on a 103-point pace through 4 games. Everything is just fine. Or is it 5 games? I think I did the math wrong. Either way, the team's looking fine. And Kevin Lankinen's been good. JT Miller's been great. Demko's still out. Joshua's still out. But things are looking all right. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are we doing today, Clay?
Parker, I'm doing great. Are you doing okay? I was worried about you last Thanksgiving. I was thankful that you're better, obviously, but was everything okay last week?
Yeah, I just had a weird illness that took me out of commission for like 2 days, and now I'm back. I don't know. It was bad timing. Literally like Sunday afternoon, I felt terrible, and we canceled Monday, and then by Wednesday, I was totally fine. So I don't know. I'm happy to be on the other side of whatever it was, and we're good to go for tonight's show.
Well, it sounds like you got better just as the Canucks got better, so it kind of worked perfectly.
Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah. And look, if we had done a show last week, it would have been talking about, the team still hasn't won any games yet. Miserable. No, we're on a win streak right now. 2 games is a streak. We're gonna make it 3 tomorrow. I'm hoping against Chicago, and a decent chance for the Canucks this week to get some footing in the Pacific Division. Because you look right now, it's like, they're 5th technically, although it really feels like we haven't played any games.
Yeah.
No, I mean, 2-1-2. It's not fantastic. It's not terrible.
Well, we've always joked around, and I always lament how it seems like the Canucks always have the most games played, right, in the division or in the league sometimes, and then you're got to count 1 game in hand for this team, 2 games in hand. But yeah, we're actually on the after. It's weird. All our games being spaced out, 2-day gap here, 3-day gap here. It's kind of nice that we're the team that has the games in hand. But it all evens out obviously by the end. But I'd rather be on this side than waiting and watching to see what other teams do.
Yeah, very few games it feels like to start the season, right? I remember we were talking about, Demko was out, let's say 4 weeks at the start of the season. That ended up being like 10 games or something like that. It's like that doesn't really work, right? It should be more. But no, the Canucks have definitely been on the light side of scheduling. 2 games really this week, 3 games before our next show because they play Monday at 7:00 against Carolina. But yeah, I was scrolling through the Score app because just like checking game times, like, all right, Tuesday, 5:15 sounds good.
Yeah.
Keep going. Nothing Wednesday. That makes sense. All right. They probably play Thursday. Nothing there. Do they go Friday, Saturday back to back? Nothing Friday. And they don't play Saturday. I'm like, the Score must have forgot a game. They must have forgot to put the Thursday one. The next player going to play 3 times this week. No, they can actually just only play twice. They get to finish up their road trip against Chicago, and then they get a lot of rest flying home.
Yep.
4-hour flight, come back, get rested.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about this, but it actually, I think, makes a really interesting storyline to follow tomorrow about Lankinen or Shilovs, then the 3-day gap, then alternating games for 3 days. So we won't spoil the preview for tomorrow's game. We'll recap the 2 wins first. But with all these gap days, Parker, you could ride Lankinen tomorrow, but we'll wait. We'll wait until we get there for sure.
Yeah, we will preview. We got 2 games to recap. We could touch on the previous ones, but those are so far in the past.
Oh yeah.
Like who even remembers what happened 2 weeks ago? It's funny. We haven't done a show. We haven't talked since the season started, essentially.
Oh, good point.
Which is crazy to think about. So we can quickly revisit the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
But then really, it's been, we're only 2 weeks into the season, so not much. A bunch has happened.
Okay, let's rip through the 3 losses for the sake of completion, just so we can say that you and I, Parker, on Canucks After Dark, talked about every single game. You were at the Calgary game, right?
I was at the Calgary game, yes.
And?
Yes, sitting in section 417, a section I didn't know existed before that night.
Yep.
All the way up at the top. You get the service. It's a club section, technically, even though you're as far away as possible while being in real seats. Private bathroom. There's a shower in there. Which was very bizarre, but no, I got cocky. The Canucks were up 3-0. I was texting my Flames friend. I was like, I hope you like the draft lottery. And then the Flames go 4-0 to start the season. But no, it was a fun game. The Canucks played a really good first half of that game. Yeah. They tried to shut it down, and systems aren't there yet that early in the season. Calgary looked all right. And then obviously that JT Miller goal was sick. That got everyone back into it. and then a really nice play on the winner. But vibes were good for the first half of the game.
Yep.
It was good to be back in the rink.
Yep.
It was good to be downtown. It was a beautiful night downtown. We got downtown a couple of like 2.5 hours before the game. Got to walk around the city a little bit. It was lovely until they lost, and I had to take the train home.
Okay, so you went to game 1. I went to game 2, and I'll do as quick of wrap up as well. Tyler Myers plays 36 seconds. It looked a little scary. Kevin Lankinen makes his Canucks debut. We lose in the shootout to Philly, but we always have trouble against Philly until last weekend, and then got to see the debut of Matvei Michkov, which was pretty cool. And overall, at least the Canucks come out with another point. They don't win a game, but they I guess they start their first homestand with a record of 0-0-2. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah, undefeated in regulation. No, this is funny. It's funny because I'm like this. The wheels are turning in my head. I'm like, we've talked about this before, but we didn't do a show. We did the live stream.
The 24 hour. You got it.
But yeah. But no, that one was I mentioned to you on that stream. My team had a game at 10 p.m. that night, my hockey team. So we were all crowded around my phone in the dressing room at 9:59 p.m. Ice is ready, and we're like watching the shootout, and every time someone does score, and then finally DeBrusk scores, and we're like, all right, great, let's get ready to go. And then the Flyers scored and tied it in the shootout, and of course they ended up winning it. But tough start to the season, going 0-2. Obviously, then, now that I think about it, the Lightning game was on the Tuesday. We have 3 games to recap.
So technically, properly we have the 3 games. You got it.
I'm doing great on my math this afternoon. So now we can get back to our regularly scheduled programming of recapping the last 3 games, the last week for the Canucks. So starts out on the road, first road game of the season in Tampa Bay. This was not the prettiest game we've seen from the Canucks.
Yeah. But it wasn't brutal either. Like, they played them pretty tough. They just not tough enough, I think. Yeah,
it was one of those ones where I think the defense had a lot of lapses, and that seemed to be the theme through the first 3 games of the season. Offensively, the team played fine. I feel like structurally the team played fine. There was just some breakdowns, especially on the defensive side. You get Kucherov scoring to open it, and he just kind of sneaks past the defenseman. I think it was Juleson. He sort of goes for the guy in front, leaving Kucherov all by himself. Yeah. He's going to score there more times than not. That was his 4th of the year.
in game number 3 or whatever. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So he's a decent hockey player.
Yeah.
Overall, I mean, Canucks got outplayed in the first period. Shots were 12-7. Second period, though, the Canucks bounced back. Problem is they didn't score, and Tampa did. This is Braden Point. This is just
the drop pass from the Gensel.
Gensel skates down low, and then I don't know what the Canucks are doing here, because
someone lost him. That's for sure.
Both defensemen sort of go into the middle of the ice. I know it's Sherwood and Susie. Like, I feel like it's probably Sherwood's guy. But Point just lets a one-timer go with a ton of space, and it's a good shot and a good goal.
By the way, Parker, peek behind the curtain. Are you using the wicked goal simulations now, where we don't have to load up the highlight, or are you actually watching highlights? I'm
not. Although the goal simulations might make it easier for figure out who's who. Especially, I'm looking at it now. It does circle the right guy.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's amazing.
But no, the videos are actually loading quite quick today, which is nice.
Okay. That's fair.
And then early in the third period, it sort of gets out of reach, right? It's 2-0 going to the third. This team has shown, hey, they got the offensive firepower. They can come back down 2 in a game. But Tampa Bay gets one here, just a cycle down the boards. Hagel's got a ton of time. Canucks are sort of floating. Yeah. It's crazy here to have, 4 Canucks in frame, essentially.
We outnumbered them. That was weird.
And there's 2 guys in front, Susie, and let me look at the goal simulation to figure out who else is there. Susie, it's not even Susie, is it? It was Myers and I guess Besser and Hughes sort of all around and could have done something, but they just let Cirelli go essentially, and he's able to find the pass.
You're out. Cirelli out-muscled Myers in the in the slot there for sure. But then we at least get a goal, and the Canucks working around the perimeter. And then this is the one where Miller shoots it, Besser tips it, and it's going through Vasilevsky's legs. It's going over the line, but Connor Garland, as he should, made sure that it gets over the goal line to be.
Garland just sneaks in there. And I actually haven't looked at the simulation on it because I figure it might be funny. But yeah, it looks like he just trucks Vasilevsky in the simulation. But he just slides through, taps it in on the goal line. I don't think this is a very hot take. Connor Garland has been the Canucks' best forward to start this season.
I agree.
He is like he's just. It's so hard to watch him and not just be inspired. Like he's always grinding. He's always battling. For being the smallest guy on the ice, he's a workhorse, and he gets rewarded there.
He is.
Wasn't he like just out of the penalty box too at that point?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
And then Hagel scores the empty netter. Just one that sort of a good breakout ends up going in alone to put it away.
Pretty sure that started with an errant Miller pass, and I know we've said that a few times on the show.
Oh, the one time I watched the simulation instead of the video. Bad sort of drop back pass, and Hughes in between pinching and and trying to hold the line.
Okay, but that's good. And now we put that game to bed, and now we're just talking about Canucks wins now forever.
For sure, yeah. Canucks are 0-1-2 at this point. Hey, 2 points in 3 games. It's not great. It's essentially starting the season 1-2 if you want to just go from a pure points perspective. And you're going to have 1-2 stretches throughout the year, right? And I was trying to have that sort of optimism as much as possible to start, especially, losing those first 2 games in overtime. It's like, hey, it's the same amount of points that they want 1-1. You think this team's not going to lose 2 games in a row at some point in the regular season, right? They're probably going to lose 4 or 5 in a row at some point in the regular season. Every team does. Losing 2 in a row isn't the end of the world, or 3, really.
So how are you feeling going into this Panthers game? I know this is the day you start to feel better. You're cold broke and everything. So were you okay? You had a good feeling about this one?
I had an okay feeling about this one. Bobrovsky's always tough. The Panthers are, defending cup champs. They're a good team. But they're a team that I think the Canucks can hang with. And honestly,
especially when
the Canucks played a really good game.
Solid.
In this game. It was this was the first game. I guess the Flames game had a little bit of it when it was tight, but this game had that playoff feeling to me where I was up on my feet a good chunk of this game. Like the third period, I don't think I sat down, right? Like I was like pacing and like getting involved. The Canucks generally played a really good game in this one. They were physical. Is this the game that Sherwood had like 8 hits or 9 hits or something?
10 hits. Yeah. 10
hits.
It's crazy.
Sorry. I undersold him at 9. He played really good and got an assist, but the Canucks just played a really, really good game in this one. This is a bunch of weird reviews in this game. So
and they all went our way.
They all went the Canucks way, which don't get used to that. Teddy Bluger starts it off, just backhand wraparound. That just barely crossed the line, and we're watching the replay, and it doesn't look like it crossed the line, and then they call it a goal anyways. And then obviously we get that other look that the NHL had, and it was like, they have cameras in the crossbar that are a lot better at seeing if the puck is in.
That was a good play. That was a really good play by him, actually.
Yeah, it was really fun. 11 seconds.
What do you mean?
11 seconds later,
gotcha.
Jesper Boquist, just a wraparound. He finds the rebound and sneaks it through. So the Canucks led for 11 seconds in the first period. Shots were 9-4 after 1. They were the better team in the first period. In the second period, though, Quinn Hughes is remember people were saying like, oh, he's got a shot this year.
Yep,
they might have been right.
Yes,
because he takes one shot that I think it showed up. Oh no, it was this one. So yeah, they literally puck gets played back to the point. Hughes is, he just steps in, like it takes a few strides in, 93 mile an hour bomb through traffic under the arm of Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky.
Yes.
That was that placement at 93 miles an hour. Again, lots of guys can shoot 93 miles an hour. Not many guys can skate like that and shoot at 93 miles an hour.
And that was nice because he originally took the first shot and Bennett blocked it. And then Bennett looks up like I would too if I had to block that shot. And then Hughes just didn't care. Well, not that he should, but gathers the puck like he could. And you're right. That was a beautiful, beautiful Beautiful shot. I love it. I love it. I love it when Hughes scores. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Bennett blocks that first one, and then by the time Bennett is even like looking that direction again, Quinn Hughes has taken like 3 strides to his left and has made 8 feet of space.
Yeah, it was
like
awesome.
it's ridiculous. He gets so much room to walk in. I don't even know how he shoots the short side because there's everybody there. Like it's absurd. He's so good. And Canucks get the lead. They never trailed in this game. Lundell did tie it on the power play with a minute to go. Those are the ones that are tough, right? You're trying to just get into the break with the lead. Give the guy a little more space. Why don't you?
I'm not sure what Susie was doing. Susie looked mad at the guy. Like he checked the guy in a corner and he didn't come out of the corner.
He stood over him a little bit. He looked like a linebacker after he laid a big hit, or he sort of stand over. Yeah, he did that a little bit. Lundell just has space to walk in.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see Myers sort of try to take a guy here because there's the 2 Flyers all the way at the point, but none of them are like trying to sneak down back door. I think Myers could have like laid out here and try to break it up, but again, it goes quick. So Lundell ties it at 2.
So Parker, before you break down this beautiful game-winning goal, the set play that was awesome. Besser played a very important part by making sure he wasn't offside. But before you break it down for us, what's the reasoning for Paul Maurice playing 3 forward? So my first thought, but it's counterintuitive, was he doesn't like his chances in the shootout, so just try and win in overtime because he's missing Barkov and Kachuk. That was actually my first thought, but then that intuitively that doesn't make any sense so I don't know what he was doing.
It's weird, right? Especially you got Bobrovsky in net, right?
Yeah.
I like my chances in a shootout, Bobrovsky versus Lankinen, I would think.
Yeah.
Apparently it's something that he just does from time to time. I don't like they mentioned it's like, oh, Paul Maurice does this sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. Maybe it's just having enough skilled players who can skate with the puck and control the puck, right? Because really, overtime is such a possession game now, where if the thought is, hey, if we have the puck, we want 3 forwards out there.
Sure.
If we don't have the puck, we're probably not getting the puck back until they get a shot or a scoring chance. Maybe that's the thought process, but the Canucks have the luxury of Quinn Hughes, who can just be a forward if he needs to be.
Sure. So we go, as you know, we go through Hughes and Hronek. Basically, we rotate those 2 guys. They could go Ekblad and Forsling, and that's not bad. Like it's not amazing, but it's not bad. I still don't get it.
It might be a foot speed thing, but foot
Okay.
speed didn't go the right way because forwards can't skate backwards. Apparently, as Kevin
Obviously
Bieksa said.
Yeah.
This is just a really nice play. Hughes skates in, sort of tucked in with Besser, and then just immediately skates back. Brock is like immediately trying to float down to be an option. He's like, oh, I got to get back on side.
Yeah.
But it's very similar to a play that you'd make on the power play, right? Get everyone standing still, get a guy with momentum. A lot more room with 3 guys on the ice.
Yes.
Plays it back to Miller. Miller just sort of head fakes and takes it wide and burns. I think it was Lundell that he burned.
It was,
And there's not many people skating down the wing that can shoot like JT Miller can.
Yep.
Like it's just he does it all the time. He did it in that game against Calgary. It was a slap shot instead of a snapshot. But just I feel like you put him with speed down the wing, and he's beaten a lot of goalies a lot of the time. It's an unreal shot. Just far side snapshot on the move. Bobrovsky is 9 feet out of his net to challenge. Like there shouldn't be anything to shoot at. But I also like this play too, because if you miss and it goes wide, all 3 Panthers are sort of in the middle of the ice. It's just going back to Quinn Hughes anyways.
Good point.
Right? There's really no risk to this. And I haven't looked at the goal simulation, but I'm sure that would back it up. Where you can't pan through it, unfortunately.
No, you got to just watch what's there.
All 3, by the time he takes the shot, right? All 3 Flyers are sort of at the top of the circle or below. If this goes wide, there's no chance for Florida to do anything with it. Hughes is getting to that puck next. So I like the idea of that shot. It's a great shot. And the Canucks clean that one up.
So 2 things from the goal we don't need the goal simulation to recognize, even when you're watching the screen, Parker, it was awesome that as you saw Hughes coming, if you look at the top, you see Miller skates. So he's doing the big circle back, and that was pretty cool. And like you said, very similar to power play. But watch the goal simulation one more time. Watch after the goal goes in, you see like 5 Canucks players jump off the bench. That's my favorite part of the goal simulation. Just watch
that.
This.
Is fun. That is fun that it does that. It needs to run longer.
Yes. So you saw Heinen was the first off the bench according to that goal simulation.
Because especially in overtime, it's fun to see the split. I want to see.
Yes.
I want to go long enough where you see the guys go to the guy who scored and the guys go to the goalie.
Exactly.
'Cause that's always fun.
Yeah. Very cool. So yes, a well-deserved win over the defending Stanley Cup champs who, yes, we're missing Kachuk and Barkov, but hey, we were missing Demko and Joshua. So all's fair, right?
Yeah, and it was nice to get a win, right? Again, going into that overtime, I sort of was like, wow, that was a really good game. And I was telling myself, I was like, don't get too frustrated if they lose because they haven't won yet.
Sure.
Because like, look, the process is important. They're still getting some points out of it. Like, it's not like they're falling behind, right? It's not like they're going to be 0-4 and be 6 points back already, right? They're going to be 2 points back or something like that. It's okay. But that goal was a very I forgot how good wins feel, right? It's been 5 months since the Canucks have won a hockey game, right?
Great point.
So getting that winning feeling, waking up the next morning and seeing that goal, and then every time I saw it, watching it with the sound on, just running that the next day, it's a great feeling. It was a really, really nice feeling to win that game.
And before we get to the Philly win, I guess what was really interesting about this was the second straight sit for Daniel Sprong. It was this Desharnais came back for Juleson, and it was the Canucks debut of defenseman Erik Brannstrom, who played 12 minutes. And I thought it was fine. Like him and Desharnais, limited minutes, and then they got better even as the next game went on against Philly. But he might be a sneaky good find for us, Parker.
I like Brannstrom in the lineup. Yeah. I think it's a good ad. It just adds speed. He can skate with the puck. Having Forbort and Desharnais together, and obviously Forbort's away for personal reasons.
Yes. Yes.
But having Forbort and Desharnais out there together, there's not a lot of dynamic play that you could expect, right? And most third pairings in the NHL, that's not what you're expecting, right?
Of course,
that's not the point.
Yes,
and that is the reason why you probably don't want Erik Brannstrom in the lineup every night, because you want someone who's more stable and can make those plays, but. Juleson had a bit of a shaky start to his season, and I know he seems to be a game 42 onward kind of guy based on last year. He was fantastic in the latter half of last season, and hopefully we get to hopefully he can build off that. But having Brannstrom who can play the right side as well, he's done it in the past. I think is a really useful piece because it just adds a bit of a curveball you can throw. Right. You're not like, okay, we got our 6 guys and that's it. Right. And then you get, Mark Freeman, Noah Juleson, but those guys don't really change the dynamic of that pair. Right. They're there to do the exact same job.
Great point.
Brannstrom gives you a little bit of hey, we might need to get something going. And you can throw him out there and he's held his own. Yep.
That's a great point. You're right. On the right. So what's really interesting is for the Canucks, 3 extra skaters, they've now settled on 1 extra forward and 2 extra D, 1 left guy, 1 right guy. And you're right. On the left side, if you need a more physical matchup, yes, you can put Forbort in. If you need a more puck moving matchup, you put Brannstrom in. On the right, it's Hronek, Myers, and then your choice between Desharnais and Juleson, who different size but play the same way. So you're exactly right. The options on the right side are not as dynamic. They don't change the look as much as the left side, and maybe that's okay.
Yeah, and again, we're only a few games in. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves throughout the season, right? Especially when everyone's in the lineup, everyone's available. And it's probably nice to rotate some guys in and out because when they start winning games, things aren't going to change that much, right? And then when they have those losses, it's nice to be able to try to throw a spark in the lineup.
Yeah. All right, so we get to the Flyers game, and Sprong gets back in after sitting twice, and Lankinen is the first goalie to make back-to-back starts on the season.
And well deserved, right? He played he played quite well in that Florida game. I don't remember how many shots there were. He stopped 26 of 28, so a very solid performance against a team that can score. Myers' 1,000th game, which was at risk, obviously, with that injury that we saw the first time. But Tyler Myers has been pretty good so far this season. I've been quite happy with him. This one just kind of felt a little methodical, didn't it? Like this felt like when the times are good last year, when this team when we were getting the tweets that the Canucks are 26-0-0 after leading after 2 periods. That's what this game felt like. This game felt like they played a hard period and a half, and they said, "Hey, we're up 3-0. You guys can do whatever you want." And it ends up with the Canucks taking 4 shots in the third period because they didn't need to take more shots. It was a very relaxing third period of hockey. There was no stress, but we can run through it, through sort of the events that transpired to get us there.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is, I guess it depends on perspective. One could say, "Well, Flyers hit 4 posts," but I would say, "Well, that's because Lankinen is really good at cutting down angles. He didn't give anything to shoot at." But then, of course, if Vancouver hit 4 posts, I'd be saying, "Man, they should have won 4-3." So I guess it depends.
Well, it's the quote from last year, right? What, you want me to stop the ones that aren't going in?
Yes.
That's not Lankinen's job, man.
Yeah.
And look, the luck did go their way a little bit in those cases, but I think to say, you assume if we were to assume that all those Flyers goals go in and it's 4-3, the Canucks don't play that way in the third period the way they do.
Great point.
Right? The Canucks had their foot on the gas and they're trying to scrap their way back in. But the Canucks said, "Hey, we have a 3-0 lead. We are going to sit back and just suffocate you," and that is exactly what they did. So, First period, Canucks outplayed Philadelphia handily. Like, the Canucks were the better team. I think the shots were 10-2 at one point. They got a couple of they got that one power play early that they got some good momentum on. Killed a couple penalties of their own. Obviously, that Besser high stick was tough when he got tripped and then took Hathaway's head off. But Höglander opens the scoring. This was a lovely goal. This was Connor Garland. Who else? Just skating down in the corner, 2 orange jerseys on him. He's able to cycle it back to the point. Hronek plays it back down to him. Again, guy all over him. And behind the back, no look, right on the tape of Pettersson. The backhand tape, but still the tape. Elias Pettersson is by himself. And this is one, the second he gets his puck, I am thinking, rip it.
I knew you were going to say this.
Come on, Petey. We need you to get going. Just a classic 2018, 2019 Elias Pettersson rocket bar down. That's what we need. Instead, he takes the easy way out and finds Nils Höglander, who has 18 feet of wide open net in front of him for the easiest tap in, which he does not tap in, by the way. He actually kind of rips this thing into the center of the cage. It's just a smart play by Pettersson. Great play from Garland, smart play from Pettersson. Höglander just sneaking out of there, right? Like, just sneaking in with a wide open net. There's no one on him. Fantastic play all around.
And great point. When Pettersson takes that pass, that beautiful feed from Garland, not only is he in the slot, but there's no one around him. Like, he could easily get his. Yeah, he does. But I kind of tease you. I knew you were going to say that because we both want Petey to score. But it just shows his hockey IQ and I guess his confidence in his hockey IQ. I don't know if it says anything about his confidence, about the lack of confidence in shooting. But yes, a very, very good play. Very good play.
But also, the shot's not the only play there, right? If you see where everyone is.
Yep.
And again, they're all converted. Like, all 4 of them immediately start closing. Like, honestly, I think Petey a lot of the time fakes a shot on the forehand here and tries to make a move to the backhand because there's so much room on that side of the net. And I wonder if he looked up with that intention and it's like, oh, I can just give it to that guy. That's where I'm trying to get to anyways. And he just, like, the smoothness of this pass, like, you can tell that when you look at what his hands are doing when he makes this pass, he's very, like, make sure it gets to the guy. Like, he gets the top hand really involved and sort of shove. It's like when you try to hit an empty net from 30 feet away, you're like, I just don't want to, I'm not trying to rip it. I'm not trying to miss the net, where he just sort of like pushes it. He's not like slinging it. There's nothing on it. It was just, hey, he wanted to get that puck there, and it was a great play.
You know what I think he did? He looked up, Parker. He saw that it wasn't Mikheyev, and he says, okay, I can pass to this guy.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's a guy who can score.
I feel bad.
And Nils Höglander, we didn't mention his first goal of the season. That was an absolute rifle that we saw earlier. But good start for Höglander. He's got 2 goals through 5 games. Good. Now it's at 30 goal pace, something like that.
Sure.
Good with that. Let's just assume he does that. All even strength again.
Awesome. So good first goal. And then I'm just thinking about this Brock Besser goal that was the Tyler Myers show in front of the net. Remember that? No look behind the back, between his legs, no look. Yeah.
Absurd. For Tyler Myers to come out in his 1000th game, you got Suter comes in on the rush. He leaves it for Brett Besser behind the net.
Yeah.
Suter.
Yeah.
I don't know why Tyler Myers is F3 here. I don't know where. Actually, let me look at the simulation. Where is? So yeah,
Myers takes his
Suter.
Yeah.
Miller. Tyler Myers said, "No, JT, you can cover the point. I am going to be the one to go in."
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea usually, but
Yeah.
this is silly for Myers to just go find space between four guys.
Yeah.
Tries to shovel it, a good stop, and then find that puck between his legs, backhand no look, tap it to Besser. That's dumb. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's a great play. It's so
amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
But it's not something that should happen. And Besser,
No.
I mean, good move on his part, right? Obviously goes to his backhand and he has to reach for this thing. And
Yep.
he's very good at those, like corralling the puck on like near the goal line. We saw it in the Nashville series, I believe,
there you
last
go.
year.
Yeah.
Very, very similar goal. The one that tied it late, I think that was, where he sort of had to reach forward and tuck it in. So, good job receiving on the backhand. And sweet play by Myers.
You watch the replay. Besser and Miller are basically incredulous that Myers did that. It's like they're looking at it, wow. And then Besser even points and says, "No, it's your 1,000th game. You set that up. You go to the bench first." That was pretty cool.
Yeah, the look on his face too, like that. Yeah. That like what the hell was that that Besser has on his face as he's telling him to go take the line is awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, you got to extend that guy. Keep him around.
Yeah, keep him around. Keep that guy. We're gonna start with an 8, but we'll keep him.
Yeah, and then 50 seconds later, Canucks sort of put this one to bed halfway through. This is just off the face-off. Good win by Bluger, right to Sherwood. It's a set play. Sherwood sort of off of his back foot just slings it, and it beats Ersson. It's a great shot, well placed. So after a 10-hit performance, he goes out and finds a new column on the box score. He also had 9 hits that game, by the way.
and 5 shots. This guy and a block. This guy is. We can give him the unsung hero already.
12 minutes. Yeah. Under 12 minutes of ice time.
He's
a
unreal.
Goal, a penalty, 5 shots, 9 hits. That's silly.
Yeah. No, he's unsung hero. Give it to him already. Honestly.
Yeah. Did you see the clip of him just like tapping Ersson's pad while
No.
There was a Flyers player behind their own net and he was sort of. When they do the little head fakes at each other behind the net, he just ran on gives Ersson a little slash on the pad for no reason, and Ersson does this to the ref. It's like he's just getting in there. He's just being a problem.
Love it.
I love it. It's gonna cost the Canucks some penalties, I'm sure, this season.
Yeah.
But I'll take it for 10 hits a game.
Yeah. No, he's awesome. And then and then I found out, I was looking at him and I was trying to figure out because I always get intrigued by players of Asian descent naturally. And then I found out he's half Japanese and I like him even more because I'm half Japanese. So I have no playing ability close to Sherwood, but it's kind of cool. Just those little stories too. So no, he's quickly becoming one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. He's and rocking the 44. It's pretty sweet.
That is true.
So 2 good games or 3. 2 good games from the Canucks. To end up at 2-1-2. I said 103 point pace. I did 5 points in 4 games. It was 6 points in 5. So 98 point pace so far.
Okay. One more win.
If the Canucks can ride at a 98 point pace until Thatcher Demko is back, we're laughing all the way to the bank. It's interesting too because you take a look at the Pacific Division here, right? The Flames are 4-0-1, which I think we're all pretty sure that's not going to last, right? Like they've played well to start the season and good for them. It's but 5-game sample size. If we're going to go by 5-game sample size, the Oilers are terrible and they're not going to make the playoffs, right? Probably unrealistic. But on the other hand, the Oilers are 2-4, which is great. They were 0-4, I think, weren't they? And I think there were 3 Connors on the Oilers not named McDavid that had scored goals or something like that.
I didn't know that. That's
an
funny.
Absurd stat. But they're already to -12 goal differential. They're allowing a lot, right? And you compare that to what the Canucks are doing, right? 5 games, they're averaging just under 3 goals for and 3 goals against per game, right? Pretty low event. The Oilers are averaging 2 goals for per game, not very Oilers of them, and 4 goals against per game. They're right on par with the Sharks essentially in goal differential to start the season.
Couple players I want to ask you about, Parker, because yes, this is the first. You're right. We didn't have a show, but we had the Saturday, my 24-hour live stream. Thank you for appearing, by the way. So first one, who do you start in goal tomorrow against
Kevin
Chicago?
Lankinen.
Dave, I'm with you.
I'm not too worried. Like, I know there's you don't want to give guys too much rest, but look, Kevin Lankinen has earned the starting role, and Shelovs has some development to do, especially when it comes to shots from distance, right? That's been his Achilles heel. It's been, the book came out on him in the playoffs last year against Edmonton primarily, and teams took that into this year and have exploited it so far. I think Shelovs will be good. He's 23. He's not he's not your everyday NHLer. Kevin Lankinen is a vet, right? Like, he hasn't played a ton of games in his career, but he's what, 28, I want to say? 29. He's 29. He's played 115 NHL games. He's a career save percentage of .906, right?
Yes.
Like, he's had 3 of his 4 seasons that he's played games, he's been at a .908 or above. This is a guy who, like, he's a capable NHL goaltender that is underpaid, frankly. And yeah, like, I'm totally fine riding him until Demko's back. And, obviously I want Shelovs to get starts and get games. And it almost makes me wonder, like, when the Canucks are back at home and there's games in Abbotsford, if you just do a little, sit him down for a day to play in Abbotsford, then he can come back up in Vancouver the next night to get him some ice time. But I don't see it. On the other hand, you can be like, oh, it's the Blackhawks. They're not very good. If you're going to give Shelovs a game, that's the one. And you have the rest coming up, the 4 day or the 3 days off. Yep. But for me, it's like, you got a hot hand, and you're going to have Demko back hopefully in a few weeks. Yeah. We rack up as many wins as you can. Yeah, it's just the Blackhawks, which means go out there and get it done. There's no excuse to lose that game. Put your good goalie in. He gets 3 days of rest after. Go in and win it.
I'm with you. The fact that he got the shutout, he's playing hot, and he had that extra day, that's even more reason to play him, not more reason to sit him. I agree with you completely about this whole, whether it's confidence or a need to. No, a typical backup doesn't play every 10 or 14 days anyway. So Shelovs is fine. And I keep thinking about my bonehead bet that we made, Parker, as part of our predictions. I did not use any critical thinking skills, even. I knew that Lankinen can stay up. I knew that Shelovs can go down without having to clear waivers. And I still put Shelovs as starting 8 more games than Lankinen. I'm so stupid. So play Lankinen tomorrow. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and it seems like that's the way they're going to go based on what we've seen so far. Like you're 5 games into the season. You guys are gonna get longer gaps, and look, if Shelovs is gonna be your 1B for the whole season, I'd be like, okay, you got to get him one in every 3 or 4 games, right?
Right.
But your plan right now is to send Shelovs down when Demko's back.
Yep.
So and frankly, I don't care how well the Abbotsford Canucks do. like when Shelovs goes down, and like if it takes him a while to get his groove back because he's had some time off. That's okay. It doesn't affect the NHL team. Get Lankinen in there, get him winning games, and then when Demko's back, if you've got Kevin, I mean, he has a .953 right now. That's not going to be the case the whole season, but he's got a .953 right now. Use it. When Demko comes back, if Kevin Lankinen's rocking a .910, and Demko comes back, and we're worried about load managing Demko so he's prepared for the playoffs. Yep. You can give Kevin Lankinen 1 in every 3 starts if he's playing at a .908 or a .909 level. Like, absolutely. Even if he's at .905, right? Like, this team should be a playoff team with .905 goaltending. Right. Because frankly, league average was like .903 last year. I see no reason why you can't just get this guy in a groove and then have him split the load a little bit more heavily when Demko's back.
Yeah. So without looking, Parker, at the Canucks scoring stats, if I told you that one player has 5 points in 5 games, so only one guy right now is playing point per game, and then 3 players have 4 points in those 5 games, who are your guesses for those 4 players?
Hughes.
He has 4. Yeah.
Miller.
No, Miller has 3. So Hughes, you got it.
He's scoring. He's getting goals.
Yeah.
Important.
You named one guy earlier.
I don't know. It's been shared pretty well. I think Garland's got to be up there.
Yep. So Garland and Hughes have 4. So you got 2 of the 4.
You don't have up there.
Yeah, Besser is the one who 5, and then this is perfect. It's almost like we planned this. The last guy you're going to name is the guy that I'm surprised has 4 points because I haven't noticed him at all.
Teddy Bluger?
Close. Well,
Suter?
not close. Nope. Another blonde guy. Actually, I don't even know if he's blonde. I'll just say it. Jake DeBrusk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he hasn't been very noticeable.
No, but he's got 4 points.
Yeah, and I think again, he's settling in a little bit. He's been playing a little bit with Miller and Besser. Bluger, we have noticed, obviously, 2 goals already. He's been quite good to start this season. But yeah, I'm again, Jake DeBrusk he's a long-term play for this team.
Yeah.
Edmund
DeBrusk does have brown hair. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, I got it mixed up. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Canucks will need him to be a big producer, and 4 points in 5 games is not a problem. If you're on a 60-point pace, that's great. But he hasn't been super noticeable. But I think there's some chemistry to be built there.
Sure.
And whether he ends up honestly, if he ends up being the guy with Miller and Besser, and then you go Höglander, Garland, and Pettersson or something like that, and then you throw Sprong up there occasionally when you need some offense.
Yep.
I'm pretty good with that. If Garland has been so good, and he deserves as much ice time as you can give him.
Yeah. Let's talk about Petey because you mentioned him. He looked really good not great, but he looked good. No, he looked good in the game against Philly. He made that wonderful pass on the first Höglander goal. He's got 2 buzzsaws on his line with Höglander and Garland. We can worry about what it looks like when Joshua comes back, hopefully soon. Do you think the PD Höglander Garland line can have some legs if you indeed keep DeBrusk with Miller and Besser?
I really think so. I think Pettersson needs to be better. I don't think there's a doubt about that. He needs that swagger back that he had when he entered the league, right? Where he just didn't care. He was taking clappers from everywhere. He was just dangling people. And this has sort of been this is the one thing that Twitter's been right about. He's gotten too mature. It feels like, he needs to just be a bit of an idiot out there and just take shots and make moves. He's obviously a really smart player. His skating, it feels like it's a little bit slow right now. He's not taking many shots. I don't know what his shot count is so far this season, but it doesn't feel like what was it?
8.
So 8 shots in 5 games.
Correct.
He should be taking 3 or 4 shots a game, right? Yeah. No question about it. And if you go back to 2022, 2023, he had 257 shots, right? He was at 3.5 per game. Or I guess it's just over 3 per game. Last year that was down. He had 50 shots fewer last year, right? I'd love to see him just his career shooting percentage is 16.5. If he shoots the puck, he's going to score some goals. Yeah. He just needs to get into better spots, I think. And having Garland and Höglander out there, 2 guys who are just going to go out there and relentlessly battle, and Garland's going to win every puck and make some dumb pass to find you wide open, like he did, and like that goal that Höglander had. So I think if they, build some more chemistry together, I love that fit for Pettersson. They are 2 skilled players, 2 guys who have talent to skate alongside him. It's not Ilya Mikheyev. It's guys who can finish. It's guys who can get open. It's guys who can make plays. And I'm hoping that we get a little bit more, he picks it up a little bit, because 2 points in 5 games isn't where you want to see Elias Pettersson. Last year, it didn't look good, but at least the production was still there, right? He still had 89 points, which was weird because it really didn't feel like he was doing all that much. He needs that production to pick up.
Right. So let's quickly preview the next games, then we'll get to the people. But before we get to the people, before we preview the games, 2 people just mentioned, I was just going to ask you, the last player I want to ask you about, is this what we're going to expect from Daniel Sprong? 2 in, 2 out, 1 in, 1 out, 2 in, 1 out. Is this the way it's going to be?
I think, look, he played really well that first game against Calgary. He scored that nice goal. It was oh, this is why they got this guy. Right? He can be a bit of a weapon.
Yes.
The problem is that historically in his career he's been poor defensively. Now, when they signed him, they even said, they're like, hey, he says he wants to buy into Rick Tocchet's system and become a good defensive all-around player.
Yes.
He has been in this system for like a month, if you include training camp, but in reality, a couple of games, a couple of practices during the regular season. I don't think this was ever going to be he comes here and magically he's a great defensive player and he can play every night. I think it's going to take him learning the system. I did notice that, like, I noticed him getting back a couple of times. I actually noticed, like, oh, he's like working hard to get back in the play, when that was one of the knocks against him in the offseason.
Yeah, Viper would agree with you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think it genuinely looks like it's passing the eye test of, like, oh, he's putting the effort in to do the thing that he said he was going to do. It's not there yet, but how could it be? He hasn't had enough time to get there yet. And I think that's kind of fair of the whole team throughout the first, week and a half, right? You got 7 or 8 new skaters on this roster that haven't played under Rick Tocchet. Yeah. And it was the Rick Tocchet system and structure that was why this team was so good last year. Maybe once all those 8 guys get acclimatized to it and everyone's more synced up, maybe this team, improves in the long run. And they're not the sum of those first 3 games. And I think Daniel Sprong is a big piece of that. So I think he will be scratched occasionally. If he plays, 55 games this year, somewhere along those lines, I think that's fairly reasonable for a guy you're paying under $1 million. And if the team's going through scoring woes, you can be sure that he's slotting into the lineup.
It's funny you mentioned the 6 guys or 7 guys. Yeah, it was 6 skaters plus Lankinen, so 7 players, and now Erik Brannstrom. So you're right, 8 new players in the lineup. And it's funny, I've heard many analysts. I think Jay Pat's one of the guys tooting this horn, saying, like, but every team has 6, 7, 8 new guys. So it's not like I can say, oh, the Canucks got to take some time to build up the chemistry. But I don't know. But
it's not every team that's trying to play that style.
Sure.
Right? There's some teams that are more run and gun, right? Like the Bruce Boudreau era Canucks from a few years ago. This team is more of a, get up, get a lead, and shut it down, right? Yep. And frankly, that first game, that's exactly what it was. They got up, they tried to shut it down, and it failed. But last year it didn't, and I don't think the player personnel has changed enough for it to be like, oh, it's not going to work this year. Yeah. I think it just needs a little bit of seasoning. I'm not going to, again, we're way too early in the season to be too worried about that. A month from now, if they're blowing leads, I'm going to be concerned. But, we saw it against Philly, right? And Philly's not a great team, but they did exactly what their game plan was. They got ahead, they shut it down, they suppressed the shots, kept everything outside, and just sort of waited till the final buzzer.
Sure. So we got 3 games before our next show. We got the Blackhawks tomorrow, which we talked about a little bit already. Then you're right, the 3-day gap. Then homestand, quick 3-game homestand, starting with Pittsburgh on Saturday and Carolina on Monday. By the way, I'm going to be at that game, so I'm going to do the show from my office. I'll get back to my office. We'll do the usual. You might have to do the first 5 minutes without me, but we'll talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What do you say?
Are we talking about the teams, or are we just going record prediction?
Well, we're already at 10. It's up to you. We can talk quickly.
That's fair. I mean, looking at these teams, Chicago should be a very beatable team. The Canucks are fairly well rested. The Blackhawks aren't that great. I'm excited to see Bedard play, as always. I think the Canucks should win that game, 7.5 times out of 10, right?
I thought you were going to say 7-1.
No, maybe not. The Canucks should be a better team than Pittsburgh too.
They are,
right?
Yeah.
Like Pittsburgh is sort of in that mushy middle stage in their in sort of their arc. It's a team that the Canucks, they probably should beat. Carolina worries me a little bit. However, a lot of, they're coming off of quite a bit of rest. They're at home. Yeah. That gives them a bit of an edge. Look, I think the Canucks win 2 of these games. I think they beat Chicago. And frankly, I think they beat Pittsburgh as well. That Carolina one feels like a bit of a toss up to me. So I would go 2-1, 3-0, somewhere in there. I'd be happy with 2-1. Again, if you're keeping your head well above water while Demko's out, I've got no problems.
I'll see your 2-1. I'll raise you to 2-0-1. How's that?
That's fair. Look, this team loves to lose in overtime. I think you got a decent shot.
I was just looking at the stand. You know how we started the show talking about games played and games in hand? Already, New Jersey has played 8 games, and I get they started those 2 in Europe or whatever. But Carolina's only played 4. That's so weird. They've only played 4 games.
Yeah, and Washington's played 4 as well. It is a weird start to the season with scheduling, but While the Canucks don't have their, top 5 NHL goaltender, sure, let's play fewer games. And honestly, I'm kind of hating it because I'm like,
Yeah, we want to
it's finally hockey season. I'm like
Yes.
every night that there isn't hockey, I'm like, I got nothing to do. Like, I'm excited for it. But frankly, it's all right. Getting the rest. They're gonna play 82 games at least this year.
Yeah.
There's lots of time.
Our first back-to-back isn't until
Mid-November.
November, 26, 27. And it's a tough one.
Nope, 16, 17.
Oh yeah, I missed that. Oh yeah, that's the Chicago Nashville one. Yeah, and then
It's home and home too. That's
I know.
pretty rare. Like they're both it's rare that you have back-to-back games that are both at home.
Oh, I
Usually
see what
it's a
you're
road trip thing. But they got
yeah.
Chicago on the 16th, which is a Sunday, I want to say.
Saturday, and then Nashville on
and
the
then
Sunday.
Nashville on the Sunday. So yeah, good little weekend stint.
It stinks. That's the weekend of my biggest work event of the year. And I wanted to see those two teams, but I'll have to figure out another time. But that's that's Saturday and that's Sunday. All to say, the Canucks, they can rotate goalies, they can start ride the hot hand. I give Lankinen the start tomorrow and ride him like within reason. And then before we know it, maybe Demko's back by the start of November or middle of November. That would be great.
Would be great. We see Dakota Joshua skating.
Yes.
Great. Saw him in the dressing room after Myers' 1000th game. They showed the clip of him fist pumping everybody. I mean, if Joshua was skating, it doesn't feel like he should be too far away, I would think. And it's not a quote unquote injury that we've seen a lot. So it's kind of tough. Like I'm trying to think in my head of what timeline would be like once you're skating, but if he's a couple weeks out, that's a nice addition to get back. If we're saying another 5 or 6 games from now and we can slot him in there with Teddy Bluger, that would be a real nice addition.
Obviously his situation is a little bit different given what he's coming back from. But Parker, I've seen guys go from non-contact to one jersey. One jersey. You should only wear one jersey. One practice contact and going. So maybe he won't be that quick, but maybe we're talking about a return on this homestand, which would be amazing.
There's also limited. Did he skate at all in camp?
No.
Right.
No.
So I think there's a bit of a
conditioning
timeline on that.
Right. Okay. Fair.
But even then, like if we're talking an extra week or two, it's a weird one, right? It's not like, oh, he's non-contact because he dislocated his shoulder and he's waiting for that to fully heal. It's a bit of a different situation that I don't know what that entails.
All right, last question before we get to the people. When Joshua comes back, I've heard some people get excited about putting both Joshua and Garland with PD and bumping Hoglander down the third line. And you could run Bluger, Hoglander, Sherwood, or something like that.
I don't think you need to do that.
Okay.
I know there's the Joshua Garland connection.
Yeah.
I would sooner bump Garland down, I think.
Right.
And then like put DeBrusk and Hoglander with Pettersson. And then move Heinen back up maybe, or someone back up with Miller and Besser. I love the idea of Joshua and Garland together, but I love more the idea of Pettersson playing with 2 really skilled wingers. And Joshua is skilled.
Yeah.
But he's not as skilled as Connor Garland or Niels Hoglander, but like he might be more important than Niels Hoglander. But he doesn't have as much of offensive prowess.
How about this then? Keep DeBrusk with Miller and Besser. Keep PD with Hoglander and Garland. And can you imagine Joshua and Sherwood on the same line?
It would suck to play against. Do you imagine? It's like you're the away team. You're the away team. You show up. First time you hop over the board, you see those guys come over. Like, oh no.
You got one guy that could. Yeah. Oh.
That next morning is gonna suck.
Because Joshua's got the size and he's fast for his size, and you got Sherwood who has 19 hits in the last 2 games.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's what's crazy about these conversations is we're gonna see it all at some point, right? Like they're gonna mix it up. They'll put they might put Joshua and Garland with Pettersson at some point, for a game or something like that. Like they're not shy to mess around with some units.
Sure. All right, you want to go to the people for a few minutes?
Let's do it.
Okay. Put your questions in the chat, friends. We will go for about 7 or 8 more minutes, just past the top of the hour. And we appreciate all of you guys being here. Over 400 in here. 140 on YouTube, another 270 on Twitter or X, which is awesome. So we appreciate all of you, no matter where you're watching from. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mikheyev revenge game tomorrow. I'm not too worried. I don't know.
Is that where he is? He's in Chicago. Who's he playing with?
Who knows?
Did they put him with Bedard? Did they do that to our boy? Let me take a look on the depth chart.
What do you got?
Okay, no, he's playing with Jason Dickinson.
Oh, another.
And Donato. So they're really relying on the former team factor.
Yeah.
Revenge game. I'm doubtful. He might get 4 great A's, but I don't know if he's scoring on any of them.
Yeah, I'm with you. JT Miller.
Well, I gotta know. I gotta know.
Go ahead.
He has 0 points in 6 games.
Not too worried. JT Miller kind of does the whole twitch thing after taking that first face off. Some say wrist, some say jam something upper body. We saw him wearing that athletic tape on his neck 2 games ago. He had a maintenance day today, which we didn't even mention. Do you think he plays tomorrow, or are you worried?
I think he plays tomorrow. He might just not take faceoffs like he did in that Flyers game, which I'm fine with.
Okay.
I don't love Besser taking faceoffs. He's not, particularly experienced when it comes to faceoffs, but I think faceoff, I don't think it's super important, frankly.
Yeah. Alfred, I'll answer this one for Parker. Me a quick one. Yes. Anytime you get your first win of the season, but the way they got it and the fact that they followed up, I think that is the proverbial monkey off the back for sure.
Yeah, I had the second emotion I felt was relief. Frankly, I even went into that. I was like, I'm not gonna care too much. It's too early, and then that goal, I was excited, and then I immediately just sort of breathed. And I was like, okay, that one's out of the way. We can roll now.
Yeah. We talked about it. People can have their opinions. I don't consider trading him yet. He's almost gonna be untradeable. I think
he's untradeable.
Yeah. For better, for worse. Yes. What else you got?
Let's see here. Edmund says that Canucks Central reportedly said that Besser would be probably open to a team-friendly deal. I didn't see that, but I also didn't watch any Canucks Central. This guy to me is prototypical Canuck, right? He's the first guy in this group that we had, really. There's obviously been ups and downs. There has been, contract disputes back in the day. He hit another level last year, and to me, he's still showing that level to start this year. I want this guy in a Canucks uniform until the final time he plays.
Right.
And that gets past the point. I'm a very rational, reasonable person. Besser sort of supersedes that to me. He's not he sort of, and same like Quinn Hughes at that level too. It's I never want to see that guy play another uniform. I don't care if we're overpaying him by $6 million a year. It's sort of that level to me where that's one of those guys that should just be a Canuck forever.
Yeah.
And that's where I have Besser.
Edmund in a later comment says he heard this today. I also heard Sat and Dan talking about this 2 weeks ago, actually, and they believe, and Sat believes, who I do trust that they're already starting to talk, and that Besser is willing, within reason, to take a bit of a discount to stay here. He's one of those guys, exactly what you just said. You can't really see him playing in another uniform, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got this one from Rev Trev. Yeah, is Hoglander PD Garland sustainable? They seem too small to be great for long periods of time, and I'm worried if this is the line for the playoffs. Fair question.
It is fair. I think literally you're correct, but they don't play to their size. At least Connor Garland doesn't, right? Pettersson can at times, but then Pettersson can also reverse hit guys and look like a monster out there.
Yeah.
Connor Garland to me does not play his size to the point where I have no. And he was good in the playoffs last year too. Hoglander, I could see a little bit, just because he did dry up a little bit in the playoffs. But I think if everyone is playing to their talent level, it is sustainable.
Yeah.
But Garland is the driving force behind that as the smallest guy.
I agree with that. Fair question, Trev. I also think by playoff time, you're seeing how Sprong is looking. You're seeing a healthy Joshua. So they're going to have a lot of options. But I think that's a very fair question for sure. I'll take this one from Jaden. At the end of Langton's current contract, the way he's playing, we're not going to be able to resign him. Like that,
Nope.
that just kind of goes. He'll be a starter somewhere. Good for him. He took this $900,000 deal late in September, knowing that if he plays well and on a good team, he's going to cash in at the end of this season.
If he plays 30 games this year for the Canucks, and it might be more, really, now that I think about it, if he plays 35 games this year and puts up like a 907 or something like that, he's going to get 3 or 4 years at a few $1 million. Like there's going to be a team that needs a goalie that is going to, they're going to, treat him like Philip Grubauer or something along those lines and have him be hopefully their guy for a good period of time. However, they'll just go find the next one. They keep doing it, right? It's like, Zadorov outplayed, his price. They every time that this happens, they say, okay, we'll just go get the next one. Like that's
Sure.
It's you're going to miss at some point. Right.
Yeah.
But they went and got Casey DeSmith last year, who was fine. But look, I mean, they just go get another guy.
Yeah.
They seem they seem to be so good at it, right? Just keep doing that forever.
Let's end with this one because two people touch on it. Lekaramaki for Rasmus Andersson. Would you be open to trading Lekaramaki?
Lekaramaki doesn't get you Anderson, I don't think.
Yeah, it's plus, right? Lekaramaki plus.
It's a big plus, I think.
Yeah.
Look, Lekaramaki, I'm excited about. But the thing is, look, the goal is to win the cup this year and next, basically, right?
Yeah.
If you've got a guy that you really like that you can go get and you say, hey, we are going to mortgage the future to go do that, I am all for it at this point. I assume you're probably using your first round pick this year to do that because Lekaramaki is at least at the age where he can contribute to the latter half of this window. Yeah. Right. Your first round pick this year is less likely to do that. Right. Because Lekaramaki's got a couple years on that, a couple years of edge on that.
Yes.
So I would, and the thing is also for teams that are at the start of their rebuild that might have some guys to trade. Like I think Calgary is, assuming they fall apart. I think that first round pick, it's maybe not more enticing because it'll be later, but the timeline works a little bit better. I think around. So I'd much rather trade picks that are coming up than Lekaramaki. I'm not too worried about whether he impressed in preseason or not because frankly I thought he did. He was pretty good in chunks of preseason, and he's like 20 years old. So I'm not going to be writing anyone off. Is he 19? Is he 20? I don't know, but
he's young. He's
young, right? He's he's got a few years. If the Canucks can turn turn the Tampa Bay model where like you just randomly, every year you just get one more guy that you drafted that just shows up, like Braden Point did one year, and you're like, oh, well, I've never even heard of that guy. Oh, he's unbelievable. Like if you can just do that and extend your window as long as you can, that's going to be valuable. But yeah, look, if like I said, if this management group that says, hey, Rasmus Andersson is the piece we need to win a Stanley Cup, trade whatever you want, right? Like I don't care as long as you're not trading all your assets where you can't do the same thing next year. Because I don't want one kick at the can because it's too risky, right? Only one team wins and there's going to be like 8 teams that go all in. You want to have 4 or 5 shots at it. So that way you can, you just got to hit one. And the more shots you can have, the better.
Rasmus Andersson this year plus next year at 4.55 million.
Steal.
Yeah. All right. There we go. An hour and 3 minutes in.
Excellent. Yeah, I didn't even think about the fact that Anderson has term, right? That adds so much because you're getting him for next year at a pretty cheap deal as well. It's Lekaramaki plus. Either way, folks, thank you all very much for joining. If you missed any part or you're on the Twitter side, you can jump over to YouTube, hit subscribe, hit like, do all that good stuff. It helps us out a lot. Make sure that you like wherever you are. Hit the like button here on YouTube. If you missed any part, you can rewind back to the beginning, or you can find it on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Shiraz, thank you for the $2 super chat. Appreciate it. Since learned a lot today, appreciate your insight. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Probably when
very
you
much.
were talking, Parker. Probably when you were talking. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, folks, yeah, like I said, you missed any part, feel free, rewind, find it on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you're subscribed, hit notifications. You guys know the deal at this point. Clay, any parting words this Monday night?
Well, it feels good. It's kind of funny that this was our first show since the season has started, our first official Canucks After Dark. Great crowd tonight. Great questions. Thank you. Thank you, Shiraz. And yeah, it feels good, doesn't it, to be talking after 2 wins. Imagine if we did a show last Thanksgiving Monday. Yes, we'd be thankful. I guess we have a show, but might be a little bit more grumpy and not as healthy. So looking forward to more shows like this where we're talking about Canucks wins.
Folks, next Monday night, we'll be back. Same time, 10 p.m., maybe 10:15. We'll see how well Clay makes out. Hopefully, it's a Canucks post game after a win. Hopefully, it's a Canucks post game after 3 wins. You can jump over to Clay's stream if you want more Canucks content after this. Otherwise, have a good night.